Let's talk right now to one of those backbench Tory MPs who have helped persuade the government, cajole, bully, however you want to read it, the government into giving in on a crucial amendment to the illegal migration bill currently going through Parliament. It's got to get through not just the Commons but the Lords, crucially as well. This is, as we've just been discussing, is going to mean that the government is going to allow ministers to ignore so-called Rule 39 orders. Those are interim injunctions from the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg that could attempt to stop a deportation flight. This will basically enable the judges, so the government here, to go, well, we're just going to ignore that. We're going to carry on with them. Delighted to be joined by one of those MPs who helped force that amendment, Jonathan Gullis, Conservative MP, for Stoke-on-Trent North. Good morning to you.
Hey, Julia, how are you doing?
Very well indeed. Thank you so much for joining us. So, I mean, how many MPs were there in your group that sort of pushing for this, and how much of a threat did you have to hold over the Prime Minister in terms of stopping that law going through?
Well, look, it's been a negotiation over a number of weeks now with Danny Kruger, Bill Cash and myself, meeting with officials from Number 10 and the Minister for Immigration, Robert Jenrick. Robust conversations from both ends, working alongside Richard Eakins and Stephen Laws, who provide us legal advice as well for our end. And look, we've found some grounds, I think, that is fair, that is reasonable, and that also allows the government, most importantly, to deliver on this legislation and making sure that we close legal loopholes that could be exploited or could frustrate us from making sure that we get people on planes to Rwanda or other safe third countries that I hope we can do deals with in the future. Because if we don't, Julia, as I've told you many times before, as you'll know, as someone who's married to a great Stoke-on-Trent individual,
every time,
if we don't deliver on these policies, the people of Stoke-on-Trent North Kids Go and Talk will be sending me my P45.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? There are some 60 Tory MPs who've basically demanded stronger action on this. And it's really interesting, the reaction we've had from our audience today, basically saying, yeah, great news. Believe it when I see it. People just don't believe it. They've been promised so many things so many times. But crucially, of course, the Prime Minister made Stop the Boats one of his key missions for this year, ahead of a 2024 election, spring or autumn, we don't know yet which one. It's a central pledge. He's tried to sort of backtrack on this a bit. No one believes he's going to stop the boats. But if we actually did see a massive fall instead of another massive rise, that, I think, would certainly show people there were some good intentions there. But crucially, every single government measure that's ever been intended is completely and utterly flummoxed by either Emmanuel Macron or one of the judges in either our own courts or the European Court of Human Rights, isn't it? That's the issue.
No, absolutely. Look, first of all, I also want to thank the Prime Minister, because obviously he's instructed his team to work with us over the Easter recess and this week as well. And he's been very supportive, and he deserves credit for bringing forward legislation that many wouldn't be brave enough to do so. And so
has he been dragged kicking and screaming to this, or do you think he actually agrees? I mean, I've got no doubt at all the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, is totally up for this.
I can honestly tell you, Julia, hand on heart, he is fully committed to this, and this is something he firmly believes in. Okay. I've seen it in his eyes in one-to-one conversations as well as in group meetings like the one we had only this week with the so-called Common Sense group led by Sir John Hayes, when we had breakfast at Downing Street. He is fully committed and believes that this is one of his top priorities, hence why it's in his top 5 pledges, which is exactly what the people expect. But going to your point, Julia, about the frustration, and your listeners rightly saying, we've heard it all before. That's why Danny Kruger, Bill Cash and myself have been working so tirelessly to make sure that this is delivered, and been checking the government is beginning the operational planning for this as well. Because ultimately, when this goes through the House of both Commons and Lords, when it goes through the legal challenges, which inevitably will come from Sir Softy's lefty lawyer mates, then once that is through, then we obviously need to make sure this policy does deliver. And if people do not see or feel a dramatic difference, then, as you say, we'll face the punishment in the ballot box. But in terms of our domestic courts, Julia, very quickly, there is going to be another amendment that we've been working on, the one that Bill Cash originally did lay with the support of Danny Kruger, Simon Clarke, John Hayes and myself.
All right, don't name everybody, get on with it.
Domestic judgments as well, which means that we've raised the threshold for which judges in our courts here are able to pull off people off planes. And hopefully now it will take literally people being unhealthy enough to fly as pretty much the only reason they won't.
As opposed to, oh, I've got a girlfriend in Croydon and therefore I've got a right to a private life with her. I mean, crucially, the bill is due to return to the Commons for its final report stage next week. Then, of course, it goes to the Lords. Look, you know perfectly well you're going to face huge battles in the House of Lords. Huge.
Absolutely.
I mean, Tories don't have a majority there.
No, look, it's going to come back with God knows how many amendments. We saw, 800 amendments to the Building Up and Regeneration Bill, so I suspect we'll see amendments in the hundreds there. But I think what we need to hear from the Lords is constructive debate and conversation, and understand that their job, yes, is to scrutinise policy, but it's the House of Commons that's there to deliver the policy of the who are democratically elected members of Parliament, which is the will of the British people, backed up with those votes that take place. And I hope that common sense will prevail, because, of course, it would be catastrophic. I think David Blunkett's already said himself, a member of the House of Lords, that if there was even, God forbid, an attempt to try and vote this down in second reading, then we'll be left with no choice but to put invoke the Parliament Act upon it in order to override the House of Lords and make sure we deliver, because this is something that we have to, as you say, and as I repeat all the time, if we want to make sure that the Conservatives have any chance of winning the next general election.
OK, Jonathan Gullis, really appreciate you joining us. As you heard, Stoke-on-Trent North MP.